A very warm welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar series, Architecture Plus, on behalf of Insight, a student-faculty collaborative and a platform for knowledge exchange at SPA JNFAU, under the guidance of our principal, Professor S. Kumar Sir, and our head Department of Architecture, Professor C.H. Srinivas Sir, along with the help of members of Insight Committee, Architect Samyukta Raman, Bharat Musunuri, and Harshita Vangara, and all the faculty members of Department of Architecture. We as Insight are here to explore design as a general subject beyond just architecture with a series of webinars by practitioners from architecture and design background who are exploring different facets of design in their professional work. It is our first webinar today. I am Harshita Vangara, Assistant Professor, SPA, JNFAU. Today we are presenting the topic Design Nomad by our speaker, Architect Ajay Boga. I would like to introduce our speaker for the day. Architect Ajay Boga is a furniture designer by profession and self-taught graphic designer. He is an alumnus of JNFAU Hyderabad and further went on to pursue furniture design at NID Ahmedabad in the year 2007. He established professional practice under the name ABDA Studio, which represents Architecture and Branding Design Associates in the year 2014. The studio comprises of team of architects, artists, graphic design professionals working on projects ranging from branding design, packaging design, environmental graphics, and industrial design. He has worked in design studios such as Elephant Design, Pune, and Studio ABD, Bangalore, where he got a first-hand exposure and opportunity to work with large corporations to startups. He had worked closely with eminent design heads such as Ashish Deshpande, Sudhir Sharma, and Abhijit Bansal, to name a few. He is a keen observant and has the habit of documenting arts and crafts, and he thinks it should be an integral part of every designer. In addition to the studio practice, Ajay loves to sketch when he is on the move and believes it is one of the best ways of learning. So far, he's visited Milan, Germany, Switzerland, and the USA, where he has visited the best design schools, architecture buildings, design fairs, and workshops that help enhance his skills further. The most recent being a design workshop at the well-known Basel School of Design in Switzerland, where he attended a 4-week workshop exploring subjects such as inquiry by design, time design, poster design, and type design under Philip Stam, who is the author of the book Adrian Frutiger, Typefaces and the Complete Works. He also conducts workshops ranging from design, sketching, furniture design, presentation skills, typography, and has recently collaborated with a few architects to start a program under the name Be the Grid, which enhances student skills right at the beginning of the design education, which would help hone their design skills and sensibilities. Ajay is a finalist of Absolute Vodka India Limited Edition artwork competition, which was held in the year 2014. It is a competition project. It is one of the 3,600 entries having got shortlisted and published on the Absolute India Edition bottle, which is now available worldwide this year. He has received worldwide accolades for the work and, more importantly, for the artwork with an intricate tiger motif that celebrates India at its best. It is one of the prestigious projects that put him on a global platform, and he's the second Indian artist to have shared his work alongside with the famous sculptor artists such as Anish Kapoor, Shubodh Gupta, to name a few. He aims to create positive impact through creativity and design and enjoys a difference in viewers and thrives with the opportunity to form concepts from beginning to the end. He is currently working on few graphic competition projects, a poster design based on theme of biophilia, and a magazine cover for Architectural Record. He hopes to continue this journey doing such inspirational and thought-provoking projects, which aims to put Indian design on a global scale. So that's about our speaker for the day, Architect Ajay. And before I hand over the presentation to Architect Ajay, I would like to give a small bit of information. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box below in the control panel, and I'll bring them up after the presentation is done. Thank you. Over to the speaker, Mr. Ajay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
hope, hi. Hope everyone is safe and under home quarantine. Yeah, I think last couple of months has been very rough. So yeah, firstly, I would like to thank Insight. It's a very good platform, for everyone to talk and share their ideas and work. And also our college, JNFAU, and the faculty who are supporting this initiative. And most importantly, Harshita and Bharat for putting everything together. So I'll be very happy to share my work and the kind of projects that I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. But yeah, I'm happy to present my journey into the world of design and architecture. I think Harshita has already introduced me. I'm basically an architect, and I've pursued furniture design in the reputed design school of NID, Ahmedabad. And then I was kind of, as you say, I mean, when I chose the topic, design nomad, nomad simply means a wanderer, So I look at myself as, someone who is trying to still get into so many things and kind of get a gist of every design aspect, because when you start with architecture, you have some sense of understanding. And then when you kind of go to another institution where you have so many design aspects that you look at, so that is where you try to find your real interests. So I think I've been finding my interest in many forms and ways that I've experienced over the course of many years. So nomad, I felt, is like a very good word for me to define myself, at this moment, because I'm still trying to navigate myself to a particular profession, right? So I mean, in the course of next few slides, I'll be taking you through the journey of art, architecture, and design. So some things which really excite me every day to do, take up work. So, and the first cover page, as you see a sketch. It's a small illustration which we made in NID hostel, which kind of represents me in a way, because there are so many things that you could see in that sketch, like photography, sketching, making products, and architecture being in the center of the head, and some products which I like. So it gives a small gist of what exactly I am into right now. So yeah, as I said, I keep juggling between these four professions, and the fourth profession is something which I keep learning on my own. But I basically an artist at heart, and then architecture and design is something which I've got a professional education through. Yeah. So, and I feel all these tools give me or empower me to do things which I do right now. The self-taught is something which I've ventured into graphic design, not recently, but it's been core of my heart right from the beginning. So I keep learning on my own, and I keep traveling, and I do workshops a lot. So that is where I get to learn and seek a lot about graphic design in specific. Yeah. So I will quickly divide this presentation into four topics, or maybe four episodes, like in the beginnings, and talking about the creative process, and the moment when I started my own design studio, and also the kind of projects which got recognition. All right. So I would like you to take to the first phase, the beginnings, like everyone. Yeah, this was one of the things which I found, I stumbled upon recently because of the pandemic. I think we had a good time to look back through the archives right from the childhood. So when I was scanning all these drawings and documents, my father used to collect all my sketches. So my curiosity towards drawing or imitation of life, as you see, the car which I drew in the age of 7 and the car which I drew on the age 23, which is after my graduation, I think you see a stark like similarities and also a lot of differences too in terms of the technicalities maybe. Yeah, but still the essence of both the objects is same. So I've been very passionate about drawing and sketching right from my childhood, and I've kept on practicing it a lot. So I used to observe a lot of details, and obviously they're not very geometrically, or they have not been done in a particular way, but I was trying to find the detail of every object. I mean, if you can closely look at, I kind of captured all the details. So I think this search for details was almost there from right from the beginning. And I'm very lucky to have all these drawings preserved by my dad. And then, he was scanning almost like 300 drawings in the last week. So yeah, I thought I would, this could give an insight of, what I am and how did it start, my interest towards art or design. I mean, I was not aware of architecture or design as a profession, but this is something which I started with. So in the most of the things that I do, I talk about simplification, and I think design is also about simplification rather than making it complex. So in this particular drawing, again, you see the stick figures of humans. So I think as a child, every child tries to break complexity into very simple geometries, right? Just like the mountain sketch or the sun, the mountains, they look into triangles, circles and things. So probably I was also in the similar phase, but as a complex as this scene of a railway station could be, but something which I tried to convert it through less geometry. Probably I didn't have much education on the perspectives and things like that, but it was all about capturing it. So I feel simplification is the best thing you do in terms of navigating through your concepts or the kind of projects you do. So my work always tries to simplify things. So then again, as I said, drawing has been like a tool for me right from the beginning. So I kept practicing it. I've never left it, and then I kept on practicing it, although there has been some delaying in between years in the school years. But then I got back to it eventually. So, and even my parents encouraged to do that. So this was one of the travelogues, like a sketchbook that I used to carry. This was right after NID, and when I was doing my diploma document. So I thought, this is the best way of capturing life around. Probably you can see a lot of objects in this. You see people, you see architecture, you see products. So I think furniture, everything is all about details. I mean, unlike photography where you just snap a picture and you don't look at back, but I think drawing will give you that power to look into details. So I think this was one of the ways of engaging me with the real world. So this practice went on for quite a long time, and I have completely finished this book, and I cherish it to this day, and I proudly carry it everywhere. Then again, as I said, after my formal education in architecture and design, I think I was equipped with all kinds of um, knowledge to look at things very differently. So you can see these are all my sketches from the travel I've done around Europe, USA, and most of them are solo travels. I mean, I think that's the best way to look into the world. So yeah, I've been visiting my favorite buildings. I mean, if I have to travel somewhere, I would definitely go to visit buildings or museums and spend time there. So I spend time sketching, or maybe I just stand in front of the building and I quickly scribble things. So as you see, I mean, these are all the buildings which I've studied during my architecture days. And I was so excited when I went there and I had an opportunity to go there. But eventually I also find my ways to go there. Apart from my professional work and the time I spend, I deliberately take some time out to explore. I think this is the best way of learning anything. All right. So then, as I said, going to the museums, looking into the trends of design. So this was one of the very convenient ways for me to understand the design in its actuality, because it is something which you see up close and you get to know the material, the details and things like that. So I've compiled, all the presentation that I show today is a compilation of a lot of photographs. It's almost like going back to my memory lane, because there are so many pictures that I tried really hard to compose everything. Probably I could have missed something important, but I thought these images could give you a glimpse of what it is. So there are some good furniture designers that I look up to, like Sandeep Sangaru, for example. He has done a lot of work in bamboo. And you're seeing Dutch designers, stools, and also there is an Indian art which has been taken into the interior design. So the Taj Mahal and the tiger that you see is a Sabyasachi's work. It's a marble inlay work. And on the extreme right is a Hans Wegener chair, which I visited in the Dutch Museum in Copenhagen. So I had an opportunity and privilege to go and see things up close. So which I felt was very beneficial for me to understand about the product. And the blue chair that you see underneath is one of the designs, one of my classmates. His name is Suman Bishwas. He has won an award for that. It's called Moola. I mean, I'll share you some links at the end of the talk. Probably you can dig in more into that particular product, right? So I kind of go to all these places for my inspiration. And over the course of years, I found my passions and understanding about design. But I never have settled down to just one field. As you see, this slide is filled with so many things. That is where I think the multidisciplinary approach has come into the whole design aspect. So I consider some things as timeless. I mean, I believe in the timeless design rather than doing something for the time being. Like you see the Charles Eames elephant, it was the first plywood molded toy. So they were experimenting with the material like a plywood, how you can bend and how you can modify and create designs. So these are all the innovations that have been done in the course of product design, or let's say toy design. And also Indian crafts. I think Indian crafts has been a very engaging subject for me all through. And the kind of motifs, the kind of designs, and the kind of intricacies that our Indian craftsmanship have, I mean, I don't think I have seen it anywhere. So I always keep looking back at the handicrafts of India.
I think Indian crafts have.
All right. So here I was talking about the timeless design. So as you see, there is architecture, there is a product, there is furniture, there is typography. So these are some things which are very intriguing to me, and I kind of went on to pursue this as a passion. So I collect things, I collect objects, and I keep it in my studio. It's a source of inspiration, and also it's a talking point to many people. When someone visits the studio, we have a good chat about these things. I think it's a way of learning about the products and the designs that we accumulate. So I'll go on to the next phase. Now that we have covered what my initial inclination towards arts and design, so I went on to look at the process. When I had my formal education, so I was looking at how do you actually come up with a creative process to do or design something. So I've been to one of the best institutes. Yeah, so I had a privilege to go to one of the best institutes. I think JNFAU is one of it, and this is where all the interests and passions have come together, to actually make it something more meaningful. So we had a lot of field trips, and we had a lot of activities. Like Manasara is one of the festivals we used to do, and this is where you actually unleash your creative potential. So we also had to do a lot of competitions, and there was nothing stopping us. There is no place that we did not use. I think you see the railway station picture here underneath is we are preparing for the uh, NASA for Trichy. So we were doing some sheets which were unfinished. So it was all about engaging with the work and understanding the scope of work, and also the kind of schematics we came up with. So this was a good beginning point for me to understand the world of architecture and fundamentals of design as such. So then I happened to also do my master's, to continue my further education. I've enrolled and I was selected for the furniture design department in National Institute of Design. So this was one of the turning moments because I have never experienced design in such a large or a multidisciplinary way because this particular institute had 16 design disciplines in 2002 or 2007, sorry, yeah, 2007. So I could not get a head and tail of it, but I tried to understand, what exactly is going on. What is the difference between architecture and design, and why do people call it design? So as I enrolled, we had pretty amazing teachers, who made us do things hands-on. We had amazing workshops, and we had great interactions with a lot of visiting faculties from different countries or different walks of life. So it was one of the best days I have spent, and I could accumulate a lot. And I still consider it as a huge platform for me to, be wherever I am today. And then, as I said, like, there is something called a self-taught. I've been interested in graphic design and typography in particular. So I kept on pursuing that, and I had an opportunity to attend a workshop for like 2 months in Basel, Switzerland, and it's one of the best institutes for graphic design. So this was a time when I had gotten exposure to the international, audience. So all the people that were sitting beside me are from different countries, and we had good assignments to. I mean, it was a time where I had to validate whether I am still in the right profession or in the right frame of mind. And yeah, it definitely had a lot to do with my work. So I'll be sharing a couple of interesting things, what happened in these institutes in the couple of slides in the next. Yeah. So in NID specifically, it was all about doing. We were always constantly learning by doing things. So there was a lot of prototyping. There was a lot of making iterations, and the best part was, you can actually sketch something and you immediately can go to a workshop and then try and prototype it and check whether it is working or not. And the faculty or the workshop assistants, they're all very helpful to do things whatever you're doing. And we had such a good guidance in terms of how you actually design things. So this is my first interaction with the process of design. How do you actually come up with ideas? So it was all about having a very good brief, and then coming up with some ideations in the paper. But then it has to continue to a prototype. It could be a small scale prototype. So like in this case, the furniture what I've done is based out of the fractal theory, the one on the right, extreme right, the top. So it was a chair which was developed out of the fractal theory, where a form itself repeats in nature, just like a broccoli or like a tree. The branches of it is a repetition of the tree itself. So we were given a lot of assignments to explore different aspects of nature, like biophilia, and biomimicry is also part of it. So this is where the technicalities of furniture came into. Although I was not trained on the furniture design, but this institute trained me as a proper furniture designer. I could build complete furniture with my own hands. So that was a kind of flexibility you had. So as I said, this is an evolution process, and there are some couple of examples that I would share in terms of the process. But this is an overview of what we did in that institute. And especially when you come from a national institute, they're concerned with the crafts of India and the design of Indian design. So like the Doordarshan logo or the Air India or the SBI, the logos were developed by NID during those times, because it was an institution where people could approach and get their designs done. So I think crafts and also documentation was a very important aspect when it comes to the design training. So we had to undergo a lot of documentation process. And one such opportunity was to document the Bobili Veena craft, which was from Andhra Pradesh. And me with another a friend, his name is Vikram Tej. He's also an architect who also happened to join NID with me. So we both had to pursue this document, and we had been to the Bobili to understand the making of the Veena, because all the time you know how things are laid in the showrooms and things, but you never know what is the process that happens behind, and what is the history of the craft, and how do craftsmen actually work towards achieving this. And on the left, you see is a hand block technique, which I got this done in Jaipur. So I worked with a hand block guy. So this was during my practice in Bangalore. So I was given an assignment to do this, and it was a first-hand insight for me to understand what crafts was and what is the importance of crafts in Indian design. Yeah, so this beautiful sketch was done by Vikram Tej, and it's an exploded view of Veena. So this is the best you can get to understand what a Veena looks like in and out. So I would be sharing a couple of insights into this making, but there is a huge document that I have. I don't know if I have to share it now or maybe at the end of the presentation, whichever you would like to. Harshita, can you give me some insight on this?
Hello?
Hello, Harshita. Should I show the document now or should I be sharing at the end?
You can share it at the end.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Fine. So this was crafts and the documentation of it. Well, again, I constantly pondered over the Indian design, what exactly Indian design was. And after I finished NID, I had an opportunity to work in Bangalore, where I had to confront designers who were working with the practical products. Like the first company where I worked, his name is Abhijit Bansod. He is a product designer from India, and he worked in Titan for 10 years, and he has designed watches. And all his watches, there is a collection called Heritage Collection, which was inspired by the Indian architecture and art. So as you see some of the snippets of those, and there were designers like Michael Foley, Sandeep Sangaru, which I mentioned earlier, and there are some colleagues in the NID, Button Masala, Anush Sharma. So I'll be sharing all these links. So this was a time where I was presented with so many things to understand about what Indian design is specifically. So this time I was in Bangalore working in a studio ABD, and my friends were working with Michael Foley and Sandeep Sangaru. So we used to constantly exchange conversations of what exactly happens in the studio and what is a process like. And we also came to know across a term called Jugaad, the Indian Jugaad, where the Mitti Cool fridge, which you see on the extreme corner on the right, so that's a fridge which was designed by in terracotta. So there is a company called Mitti Cool, so which produces these fridge. So this is a invention. I mean, this is like a product of Indian Jugaad. Jugaad is not a negative term, but it is something which we used to innovate things with. So these are the things, and the Handmade in India is one of the books that I keep referring to when I have to look into the crafts of India, and I recommend everyone to look into that. And I'll be sharing the PDF link of it. It's a free link. So it covers like the entire crafts and arts of India in one entire book, and it was developed by MP Ranjan and a lot of associates working towards it. So it's one of the treasures of Indian design, I would say. So yeah, so this was my first time after NID. I got into Studio ABD, and this is where I got exposed to the real work, the practical side of things. And this was one of the assignments I was given to develop a tooth design for a Colgate. So mind you, there is nothing new I have done here, but it's just the blue area what you see on the tube is something which I've developed entirely, because Colgate has very strict norms of not changing its branding. So I think we spent almost 2 months trying to develop one tooth illustration and also the typography that is associated with it. So this was a time when I was constantly looking into the conceptual design and how do you actually convey an idea through visuals. And it is only one visual, and it has to stand out in the market, and millions of people are going to see it. So it has to resonate with the entire spectrum or the target audience. Right, so you see the concepts on the left, on the top left corner. So these were some of the ideations we have done before we even got back to the final one. So it was an ongoing process, back and forth, a lot of iterations, feedbacks. I almost got frustrated at the end of the project because I was only doing the tooth design. But the best part was, once you see the product hitting the markets, that is where you see the worth and the value that you put and the efforts that you have, made. So this was the time where I've left my baggage in terms of the architecture and design and the furniture design, which I was professionally trained to. But I think Studio ABDM presented or challenged me with, can you do this? Can you do that? Probably I took the opportunity to explore and experiment, just like how we do in every design process. So this is more like a design process to me rather than a illustration design. So it was pretty much part and parcel of the entire design process. This is pretty much what I follow with any design process. You see that. So again, yeah, I was also doing packaging design, logos, the retail side of it, how you extend a brand to a package. So it's almost like looking at a brand in terms of the holistic side. You look at the entire segment. So these are some of the new projects which I've never experienced, and I got a chance to do it. So all these are prototyped, tested, tried, and then presented to the client. So this was a very good process that we used to follow in the studio, where we talk to the client, understand the brief, and we also do a rebriefing of it, and then get on with the project. So this is one of the projects. It was a cover design. It was actually a book design for an author, Rashmi Bansal, and her book. So this is the first time I have done something like this. And then I had to go to Bombay, and this is a story about Dharavi. So, and also to talk about the entrepreneurs of Dharavi, this book is all about that. So we need to give a clear differentiation between the rich and the poor, and the use of colors and the sketch. I think this sketch, this was a hand illustrated, and it was scanned and designed in this. So I think it gave a very raw look at the entire community, and also the skyline at the back, the buildings of Bombay. So I think that is giving a clear differentiation between the rich and the poor. And the color blue is something which it is very significant of Dharavi. And if you fly above Dharavi, you see all these blue tarpaulins. So I thought blue is a very significant color to begin with. And I think the minimal colors and a subtle typography, which also kind of evokes the poor and the rich, uh, got everything together. And it is in crosswords, and you can check it out. Well, that was all about my professional training in Bangalore. And as always, like I got into many shoes of design. And when once I came back to Hyderabad, I really didn't know what to begin with. I wanted to start things on my own. So this is where I started setting up. This was my first table furniture design I've done here after I came back. And I started a small setup in the home itself, looking for projects. But obviously, it is not an easy task, and I had to kill time to do something else. So this was a time where I was trying to fit in to this context, because Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, every city has its own context of design, and Hyderabad is pretty much new to let's say product design or branding. So I had a lot of time in my hands. So all I tried to do was engage with people during that point of time, and I have come up with a lot of products, and these are more like self-made projects in a way, where I was working with craftsmen, materials. Like you see a lot of materials here, like the bamboo, like the cane, the terracotta, thermocol for some projects. Did a lot of experiments with clocks to begin with. I had no clue. I mean, I had no client, so I was my own client. So I came up with an idea of what if I combine a fabric and a clock as a functionality. So the two clocks on the right is actually made of fabric with the background, and it was embedded into a wooden frame. Yeah. So everything was customized, everything was developed, and I was seeing whether people would actually are interested in these products, or it is more like testing ground for me. So I enjoyed the whole process of making these. I made like 25 clocks, and I sold like 20 clocks in one of the fairs. So it gave me a little confidence to, to pursue whatever I was doing. And then yeah, I was also doing a lot of products which are mostly like desktop products, like calendars, and also products for different occasions. So this was a time where the material and the design, came into picture, and everything was hands on in a way. And the aspect of storytelling. So there was a moment where I had to. I was presented with an opportunity to do a competition project for the Absolute Vodka company, who is about to release Indian version of it. So it's called Absolute India. So the brief was pretty much to showcase entire India in one go on a bottle. It was a very complicated brief and also a simple one. So this was a competition project, and where I had a lot of time in my hands. So I put entire 1 month into making this project. So which I would talk in detail at the end of the presentation. Again, as you see, packaging design is also one of the aspects which I. This was one of the things which I made for a client for her son's birthday. So that was a Minion theme party. So it was a quick ideation, it was an overnight design, I would say. And you won't find this in internet or anywhere. But you can only do these things when you have an understanding of how a packaging works. So I would say observation, curiosity, and also prototyping, helped me understand things the way I do things right now. So I don't start with a design on a computer, but rather I would sketch. I have a clear idea of what I'm going to do, and then I start cutting the paper and see whether it is working or not. So I have done a lot of iterations before I arrived at the final product. But this was a very fun project. It was not a serious project, but it was fun, and it was very quick, and it was well paid at the end of the day. That's what I think matters a lot at this moment. So it did not stop there, but as I said, the visual communication or the graphic design was always at the core of my heart. Whatever I was doing, I was looking at from the visual terms. So I got to develop and design a lot of logo designs for a lot of institutions, architectural companies, even the food and ice cream companies or jewelry companies. So as you can see, the design is mostly simplified in every aspect of the logo. I think I've used the fundamentals of design, fundamentals of geometry, and in some cases I developed my own type. Like the Unalom, what you see on the top, is a completely constructed font, and just like the squares, what is done on the at the bottom. So some things where you actually come up with your own guidelines. It's not a font, but it is something which you can develop for a brand, which can fit into their brand language. So I felt now there is a lot of things, like product design, there is graphic design, there is branding. So I felt there is somewhere I kind of float between all these designs. I don't want to stick to one segment, because I'm able to use the design process, what I use for furniture or anything, just like the process is similar to all the projects that I undertake, be it, any medium of design. So that is where I right now call myself as a multidisciplinary designer rather than an architect or an artist. Yeah, so this was an extension of the brands. This is the packaging design for an ice cream brand and some home furnishing companies. So I think that illustration, the drawings, the observations all came back to some thoughtfulness in terms of the projects that I do. I think I use every tool to convey that story of that particular brand. So as I said, there is competition projects which I continue pursuing. When I don't have any projects, I think I'll go back to competitions. It is a lot more engaging, and it is a lot more fun to do, because there is no client, but you have a brief and you abide by that. So I always associate myself with architecture as a stream, and I love doing work in that particular stream. So this was one of the magazine cover and the logo and the identity that I've designed. So this was one of the recent competitions, and we are still yet to get some results on this. So I felt competitions is a very good way for you to engage with the real world and also to unleash the creative side. So just like I said, I associate with a lot of architectural projects. So I eventually thought, what if I combine visual design and architecture? I felt there is some space called as an exhibition design where I could utilize both the things to its fullest. So these are some of the projects that I've done in the course of time. So I collaborated with another design company in Delhi. It's a TOD design. So I'll share some links of their work. So we kind of conceptualized, worked, and made these things possible. So we work with a lot of artists, artisans, sculptors, and also the structural designers. So it's a team of collaboration between various people in this. So this was the Bihar Pavilion, which we have done in Delhi in 2016. So it showcases all the arts and crafts of Bihar. And one on the left, which says India Innovates, is a project in Rashtrapati Bhavan. It's a museum design. So it was a complete end-to-end museum project where we have to come up with the panels, the display panels, and also the build forms inside that. And one on the right, what you see is actually a craft that you see. It's not just a color, but it's actually a craft called Sikki craft from Bihar. So we have asked the artisans to come and weave these panels. So we use this as part of the Bihar Pavilion facade. Okay, another aspect, as I said, since you've accumulated so many things, over the course of so many years and working with studios and designers and self-learning, sometimes I think it's better to unlearn things, something, which you keep all these things aside and start something new where you are presented with more options and you will be thinking afresh. And also you want to see the potential of where you can actually go. So this is the time where I thought in 2018, I've done so many projects in the studio and I was looking for a break. So I enrolled for a workshop and I eventually got selected. So this was the time where I got to see the international side of design. So this was a typographic workshop. As I said, it was taken by Philip Stam, the one on the black shirt on the right. So he taught us how to actually construct a letter. So I felt the similarities were very close to how we draft an elevation or a plan of a building or anything like that. So the detail is pretty much the same. And I also got to know that the designer Adrian Frutiger, who visited India. He was a Swiss designer, typographer. He visited India and he developed a Hindi Devanagari script for Indian version of Devanagari using the fundamentals of typography. So he was the one who designed the NID logo, and the font of NID, what you see, is all developed by him. So it was very fascinating to see the connections of Indian design even in the other parts of the globe. And it was a first-hand experience to actually develop a letter typography, which was very interesting subject for me right from the beginning. So I kind of gave it a twist in the assignment. In the final assignment, I tried to see the Indian Mughal columns, and what if we combine the architecture with the light, with the lettering or the type. So I ended up with that letter N, which you see has a columns underneath. So it was a combination of two different cultures. So my professor said it was like a beautiful blend of Indian culture and a Swiss typography. So I think they have resonated with something, which I even could not have pursued, unless otherwise I was there in that workshop to understand the details of typography. So overall, it was a very good experience, and I had a very good learnings, from that whole episode. Besides traveling, which has always, been there as a passion. So I thought, learning is one aspect, but also uh, guiding the students or taking workshops has been a very enriching time I've spent. So learning and giving back is something which I've always understood, how actually how you teach things and how you actually make people learn things. So I thought, maybe after accumulating all these experiences from the teaching aspects, so I gave it a try to why not I share some of these ideas, with students. So these are all the, new students, first year, second years, freshers. So I was going on about teaching the fundamentals of sketching. Like I started with design sketching. As you see on the right, this is my hand. I was drawing my own hand in a different postures. So this was a time when you look at the details of every aspect, and in terms of scale, proportion, volume. So I think these help understanding design in a bigger way, because these are the small things which you have to pursue to understand the big things. So I continue doing this, and I continue everyone, or I encourage everyone to do this. And I also call sculptors, artists to my studio and take some workshops on different topics. So this is where I started, me and another architect, we started an initiative called Be the Grid. So we thought we'll take workshops whenever we have time, out of the professional time. And it's been very enriching, and students love it. And more than students, I think I enjoy the workshops a lot. So I get to see a different side of how you think about, you know looking at objects. Yeah. So this was all about the design journey, right from the childhood to getting into a college for a formal education, and doing my self-taught graphic design projects, and a studio which encouraged me do that in Bangalore. So and getting back to Hyderabad to start my own design firm. So all these things gave me a lot of boost in terms of taking up and pursuing projects. So I don't think this is an end of what I do, but I'm still trying to pursue what I'm inclined towards. But I think visual design is something which is remains close to my heart, so I would rather pursue that in collaboration with other things. So I engage with a lot of designers, architects, and artists. So I think this is the best way of learning what actually design is. It is not about my baby, or my product and my things, but it is something which you do it for the people, and to experience it for the people. I think you should look it from the people's perspective, or from the user's perspective. So I always look things from the user's perspective and try to solve things. So this was one of the ways that I try to go about on my everyday projects. Yeah. So as I said, I would share the presentation of one of the projects, which is a competition project, and that is something which got me a global recognition. And more than recognition, I think I'm more satisfied with the work. Yeah. So I thought I would share the process of the whole project, which is quite insightful, right? I hope it is insightful. So yeah, the project I was about to show is Absolute India. So where I was not, it's a global competition, and there were some 4 to 5,000 competitors in this project. The brief was pretty much simple, that you have to represent India on a bottle, you know, and Absolute is known for its alcohol, vodka bottle to be specific. So this is a brief which gave me, which took me back to all my design student days, where I traveled a lot in and around India, but also bringing back all those connections. So when you talk about India, what comes to your mind? When I say what is India, I think there are millions of things. You cannot define India in like one go. So I came up with a mood board, which I thought is something universal, and which a lot of people would connect with, right from the national birds to the national animals, and also to the intricacies. As I said, craft is very much part of Indian design. So I thought of combining all these aspects, even cultural and traditional aspects of India, because most of the times when you say India, Taj Mahal, poverty, there are a lot of things, that comes to our mind, but also there are a lot of good things when you talk about art and design and culture. So I thought I want to I wanted to project that on a global platform, and I want everyone to know about these things. So that was my main motivation to do this project. So this was a mood board which I've done, and then it all started as a sketch. I mean, this is like a 4 feet by 4 feet canvas where I thought I would represent India through a Bengal tiger's face. But each and every detail of it can represent a part of India. It could be art, it could be culture, it could be music, and a lot of things. So, as I said, I enjoy a lot of manual work. Like drawing has always been my tool. So I again went back to the same tool. I started scribbling, some things, and then I found a pattern to where I was going. So this was not conceptualized on a paper and then put on this, but I was drawing and I was trying to see what can fit where. So this was a very laborious process, but a very enriching way, in a very satisfactory way that, you see things that you want to see and then they all come together to form something like an image. So as you see, I will get into the details of the picture. So on the top, I wanted to represent the North, like the Indian architecture and the classical dance forms. And also you can see the Leh Ladakh on the back, the mountains, the Himalayas. And then you have the elephants, the cultural motifs that you see in the Kerala. There are a lot of elephant face paintings. So I thought, I'll give it a little bit of twist to that. And there is a paisley, which is a motif, like Indian motif, which you see in a lot of textiles. And also looking at the festivals of India, like the boat festival in Kerala. So I thought these two boats would become part of the mouth. So it's a constant, it's a concept, that you keep on trying, which one fits where. It's like a puzzle, I was trying to fit things. So I felt, these are the things that I could represent the best in this particular frame. And obviously, for a bottle to put everything in a small bottle, it was difficult to see all the details. So I kind of improvised on that drawing, and I kind of put what was necessary, and in a very clear way, so that you could see the face of a tiger, and also the architectural, the art, the cultural elements are all embedded into it. So this is pretty much like the process I follow. This is like bringing all the things together to make something bigger. So this was uploaded onto the competition website. I would say Talent House is one of the platforms where they host a lot of competitions. So this was one of the finalists. It got finalized in one of the top 10s and 15s, and it was given a lot of positive comments. And I could see a lot of people appreciating the design. And this is how it looks on a bottle. But yeah, again, I had some parameters in check, like in terms of the colors, the aesthetics, and the sizes of the artwork. So when initially, when they selected the design, I think Absolute has got back me saying that, why don't we do it in the brand Absolute color, like the indigo blue. So I said, pretty much, I think it's not about the color, but I think it's more to do with the details of the artwork. So I'm okay with any color as long as it gets onto the bottle. Yeah. So this was a technical drawing of, how it actually positions on the bottle. And some sort of technicalities in terms of the printing, what kind of printing material you are going to use. And then finally we could see the product in its actual, this is how it finally has come together. So this was a long journey. In fact, this project was done in 2014 as a competition project, but it wasn't shortlisted then or finalized. There was another designer who got selected. But then I think 3 years later, they were celebrating the population of tiger in India. So I think that is a time when they felt close resemblance with the tiger and the initiative that they are going to, take place. So Absolute has figured out, I think this is the best artwork that they could get to represent the India and also the tigers population. So I think they called me back. They got the whole technical aspects done right, and finally printed on a bottle. So this is the final product that was shot. These are the final product pictures, and there was an event, launch event for this, and it went really well. And I will also share the link of this particular project, so you can see a little more insight about it, and also a lot of other Absolute bottles of different countries, not just India, but I think every country has its own story. So it'll be amazing to see all those bottles together. So this particular project is now part and officially part of the absolute.com website, and it's going to be soon launched in a museum which they are developing in Aarhus, the Sweden, where they manufacture these. And interestingly, when I went to the Basel for my typography workshop, I was hopping through different airports, and I could see my design being, showcased in all these places. And I kind of did a complete documentation of it along the way. It was very enriching, and it was very satisfying to see the work that you've, come to. And it more than the work you've done. I think the way it was reacted, the people reacted to the design was. It was received very well among all the audience. And even Mercedes also has published this particular article in its own magazine. It's called Me. So yeah, I think pretty much this was a celebration of the Indian design in its originality. So yeah, I mean, to sum up the whole thing, this is my journey so far, but it is just a beginning of something bigger. But yeah, as I said, it is a journey, and I said I'm a nomad, and I keep wandering between different things. But no matter what I take, I try to see completion, right from the beginning to the end. There is a process, and there is a time aspect, and there is a kind of an ongoing conversations with you and the collaborators and the team and the client, in most of the cases. So I see myself more like a designer rather than an artist. I don't want to be an artist or called to be an artist, but I think there is a difference between artist and a designer, which clearly is design is something which accommodates to the people's needs, whereas art doesn't need to accommodate. I mean, Absolute is nothing to do with me talking to a lot of people, but it is something which came through my inner perception and desire to do something. Whereas like the Colgate, what you saw was more like a collaborative effort, and there is a lot of people who are involved in making that design. So we cannot really own anything in particular. So yeah, pretty much this is about it. So yeah, so this was a project we have done for the Bihar Pavilion. Bihar Pavilion is basically housing all the arts and crafts of Bihar to be showcased in a Delhi Pragati Maidan, which happens every year in the December. So there are a lot of states who put up their best work. They showcase it through an exhibition panel, and also there is a huge space that is being given to every state. So we, along with another architectural company, TOD Design in Delhi, so we collaborated together, and we were the branding partners for that project. But it also has to do with a lot of crafts and design and architecture and interiors. So it's a combination of all these things. And if you see the visual board, the mode board of it, you see there is typography, there is craft, and there are colors, and there is Madhubani painting on the right, which is again the important aspect of Bihar's craft and art. So we try to come up with concepts together as to what the elevation or the facade of the building should look like, because this is a project where you have the complete freedom to showcase everything in its entirety. Even right from the beginning, you can talk about what that culture of Bihar looks like, or what the state of the Bihar has to offer. So we were looking at a facade design to begin with, and what we thought, it could be like probably very big panels to showcase their arts and crafts. So these are the initial sketches, and then we come up with a concept of, when we are representing Bihar, we saw there are three main aspects. One is people of Bihar, one is the knowledge that is accumulated, and also there is natural resources of it, right? So the present, past, and the future. So we kind of conceptualized around a triangle. So we thought this triangle could be the base of everything, be it interiors, be it branding, or be it typography. Yeah. So based on this, I kind of developed the logo of it, which is again a tessellation kind of a thing, which is been modified to bring that, but it is part of the grid. So once we identified that, this triangle is going to be the main element, so we kind of gave this element to the craftsman. So the image on the right, on the bottom that you see, is actually a craft, the Sikhi craft of Bihar. So the artisans were given these metal bars, and they kind of weaved the triangle into that particular frame. So we use that as a facade element in the end. Yeah, so this facade, what you see on the right, these elements are all weaved by artisans and craftsmen. And the graphic part is something which has to be done on a computer, on a digital design. So we gave these schematics to the artisans, and they developed it. So it's a very good collaboration between, let's say, designers, architects, and craftsmen. It's a very good example. And we had very good moments with artisans and how they work, and a lot of insights. So when we had to represent the people of Bihar, so we thought, we represent from all classes and creeds and sections. So it was a combination of geometry, an aesthetic of people, and how actual people are perceived, when you actually elementalize things. So this was something which we came up with very quickly. And as you see, the next slide is the Bodh Gaya of Bihar, the temple, the Buddhist temple that is there in Bihar. So we wanted to show the cultural aspect. So the negative space, what you see is a Buddha sitting, under the tree, and there is a temple behind him. So we were trying to achieve this graphic through the triangle, what we have selected as a main element, brand element. And there were a lot of panels, since it's an exhibition design. If you've been visiting museums or exhibitions, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of image and typography and information about every product. So these are some of the panels that we developed. So if you can see that, the triangle has been continued. There is a consistency across all the elements. And then the people of Bihar, there are a lot of people who have contributed to the Bihar's growth in terms of arts, craft, or products, or in terms of all the aspects, be it engineers, scientists. So we kind of collected all the names of the people, the prominent personalities, and then tried to engrave it, or do a modification on the panels itself. So which became like a walkway. So when you're actually going out, you get to see all these names. So this is a combination of typography, a space design, and an experience of a museum. So this particular project had got a lot of an opportunity to work with a lot of areas. This is the first thing that got excited me, and we're happy that we achieved what we initially thought. So these are the panels that you see as a complete picture. So there was illustration design, there was typography, there was graphic design, and there is also product and craft. So these are the invites that we developed for that particular fair. And this is an entire facade graphic, which is technically been laid out, because each and every element or a triangle that you see has to be put on that facade. So we had to develop a grid, and it was more about executing these elements once the graphic is ready. So there was a lot of technicalities involved, which I think the TOD has done a wonderful job in getting this done. And if you see the final creation of it, this is how it came out, as a shaped up. And we wanted to include everything, and the kind of lighting and the kind of materials people use, it kind of uplifted the whole intention of what we wanted to give it. It was looking much beautiful on the the physical front rather than a digital side. Yeah, as I said, all these panels were stuck onto the facade, so you kind of see the graphic taking life in the physical realm. And this was an introduction to people to get into the experience of Bihar. Yeah, and there was a lot of new materials being used in a very innovative ways, like the traditional knowledge as represented by a tree, and the fruits of it are like the people who are part of the revolution, and it's been positioned in such a way that it hangs onto the walls. So each panel represents one prominent personality at the back. And this is a small toy, that is made out of like a cane, uh, like the palm leaf. Yeah, so it's called junka, if I'm right. And it's like it costs only 5 rupees to get that, but we have used a lot of things to give it a entire experience of what the craft looks like. And also the lights, what you see here is also paper made. It's made by paper mache craft. So this was a combination of the architectural concepts, the visual design, and the experience of the museum. So this was very well received, and it was one of the major projects that I was very happy to be part of. And there is a video of the making and also pictures about the project, and I would be sharing those links at the end so that you can see the project in detail, and also you can see the works of TOD in detail, because they completely are involved with the exhibition projects. And this collaboration has always been successful. So very happy to share these. So I'll show you one of the identity projects, the branding project, which is completely different from environmental design, but at least it gives an insight of how I take up branding projects. So this was a company which is based out of Nairobi, Africa. So they wanted to propose a logo for that particular company, and it's an NGO. It takes up a lot of NGO activities for the people of Nairobi. So we are presented with a brief most of the times, like what exactly the organization is all about, and we try to see what it is trying to do with the new branding, and we kind of put down the keywords. Like in this case, you see the learn, connect, grow. Yeah, so we kind of talk to clients, understand the brief, and also rebrief the entire section. So we thought probably those are the better keywords to begin, with the journey of branding. So we looked at the brand strategy, what kind of future possibilities that they're going to do with the company, and its services. Yeah. So they're mostly into training people, empowering the people, and also giving a platform for them to work and share. So we thought Kuja as a name. It's a Swahili, word. It also represents growth and learning. So we thought a letter K would actually give it a nice twist, and we looked at different possibilities how the K can be played around. So we looked at a palette, which is the colors of a rising sun, which talks about hope and also empowering that particular section of the group of people there. So we finalized 3 colors, and the third color is something which is more playful and exciting and ambitious. So if you see the logo construction, so it's almost like how we kind of overlapped 3 different aspects, like the learn, grow, and connect, all coming together to form the symbol K. And also sometimes it is required you to not actually put a font, but rather develop a font. So this is where I take an opportunity to construct a font in this case. So we developed entirely everything from scratch, and then we started putting the color schemes in place, and look at how the other brands, the sub brands, can be also placed underneath. So this was a identity concept, and then looking at the applications, like how would it look on a letterhead or a business card, and how do these colors place a significance in all these applications, right to the physical applications on a automobile, let's say. Yeah, so it says connecting Africa and beyond. So it's all about connecting and empowering. So we wanted to keep the message clear, simple, and very bold. right to the application of a digital. So I think every brand that you see these days have both the physical application and the digital application more than anything, because digital is something which is evident. Like, we are surrounded by so many apps, and every product needs to be on a digital space these days. So when we design a brand, we also look at all the aspects of applications, like where does this logo actually go into, on a product, on a t-shirt, on a app, on a website. So we study all these things beforehand and then try to come up with the schematics. So if you see this whole presentation was not made in like number of slides, but it was designed to be like a single page scroll. So I will show you the entire presentation in one go. Yeah. So this is more like one page presentation. So we kind of try these different modes of presentation, and I enjoy doing presentations. So I keep coming with different iterations when you look at presenting it. So when you actually scroll down, it's almost like you're going through a web page. So it's almost like you're telling the whole story in one sequence without losing the client, or the interest in the project. So this was a branding design for you. Let me show you a document project, like the craft documentation, which we have done in the NID. This will give an insight of how crafts needs to be documented, and it's like an archive now. If you want to look back and infer something out of it, you can definitely go back. So it's like a very lengthy document. So this was done in collaboration with another friend. His name is Vikram. He's from product design. He's from also JNTU, the same college. Yeah. So this was one of the documents we have made, and the sketches what you see here are all made by Vikram. So he's an amazing illustrator. So this pretty much talks about the context of the area that we're going to document, which is Bobili, which is seen in the red dot. So we want to present some demographics of the state, the culture, and mind you, I mean, this was Andhra Pradesh before, so we had all these Telangana and Andhra in one. So we were talking about the agricultural aspects. So this project, we utilized the photography as a route, and also the typography. So both combined together, and present it in a very engaging and very informative way. So here we tried to actually put all the crafts of Andhra Pradesh, in a series of document, to see where the Bobili craft is a very significant. It actually plays a very significant role in the history of handmade crafts of India. So we wanted to bring back that culture, and we wanted to showcase what exactly happens with that particular craft. And when you document crafts, it's more like you're telling a story about a cluster, about the people of who are pursuing that particular craft. And mind you, there are so many aspects, not just documenting the craft, but also looking into their lifestyles, looking at the condition of the craft, and what is the future of that craft. So a lot of crafts in India are right now in a diminishing phase. So it is very important for a designer or for a documenter to actually kind of get to the roots of that and bring it back. So I think a lot of new trend has also been uh, started, in terms of bringing back our own Indian arts and craft as a history to the interior design or architecture or products. So you see a lot of sustainable materials these days, so which a lot of people are consciously doing it, and which is, I think, is a very good thing, and it has to continue, in that direction. So here we're talking about, as I said, we are documenting the Veena. So we should look into the history of Veena, and who actually plays it. So there is a whole lot of people who use this particular instrument to, and it has a lot of documented evidence of why this particular uh, instrument has been used, and what are the musical significance of it. And there are very varied types of veena here. I mean, we are talking only about Bobili veena because it has another significance, but in fact there are a lot more styles. So this project gave us an insight to look into the craft in a very engaging and a very in-depth way, to understand the musical significance of it. So there is also Mohan Veena, which looks like a guitar. Yeah. So when we had to go to Bobili, the place where it actually gets made, so we talk about the history, we talk about the kind of people who ruled that place. Let's say here, we're talking about the culture, lifestyle, and festivals. So it is, I mean, before even we talk about the Veena, we are talking about why this place has been significant for making the Veenas. And it is very important for any place to, to get to understand the significance of that particular place. So all we're trying to do is understand their culture, the lifestyle, and also the festivals that they do. Because somewhere, I think all these aspects influence the making of a particular product and the local craft and local materials that they use. So we traveled to the remote village. It's called Vadada in Bobili area. So finally here we arrive at the crafts workshop, where we could see a lot of craftsmen working on various sizes of veena. It's not just the huge big veena, but in fact it has been translated into many sizes now. They're called gift veenas, so that you can gift it to someone, not really for a functional purpose. So this was a particular place where we have been, and we documented the entire process of how it actually begins, like from the material, right, the raw material to the final finished product. So as you see, is a combination of imagery and an assisting text that talks about the detail of that. So these are pretty much everyone's designer's tool, like drawing, sketching, photography, and also presenting it. I think we have utilized all these tools in this particular document. So yeah, earlier people used to use ivory to make this ornamented section, but right now they're using plastic. So this also gives you an insight about how materials have been changing, and how people are accommodating this particular or enriching this particular craft, adapting to the current trends and technology or the materials. So this is a complete document of the tools that they've used. So mind you, it is almost like 2 to 3 weeks of engagement with the craft people, going to their clusters, understanding why they're doing what they're doing with, what is the process of making this. So when we looked at the parts, there are various parts of the veena. So they do it in different phases, and they try to put everything together. So on the right, you see the process of making that particular section. And it was done in an illustrative way because we could not have the time to see the whole process. So it was imagined, as the craftsmen have said, and we try to imagine and visualize in the way he explained to us. So these are the technical aspects of making that particular spear, half spear. So you see the photographs are being assisted by the sketches now. I think sketches give a lot of life and a story to that particular product. And it is very easier to explain. I think the visuals are always easier to explain than words most of the times. Yeah, so I'll keep showing you the entire document. So the sanding process, cutting and sanding. And how do you make such a complex face like this particular section of the Veena? It's a very complicated detail, but how do they actually convert that onto the, how do they project onto the wood and how do they carve it? So it's almost like a sculpture. So it's Veena is not just like an instrument now, it is a combination of sculpture and the expertise of making things. Also expertise of music also comes into picture because it has to sound right at the end of the whole thing getting assembled. So they use pumpkin, the dried pumpkin for the end of the things, which helps in the sounding qualities of the Veena, and which is a natural material, and which is very hard to get because there is a time and process involved in doing that. So finally, when you look at it from a, let's say, architectural point of view, like an exploded product point of view, this is what we could gather. How everything has come together, to form an amazing product like this. So, and every detail has been explained so that how exactly it is made. And it is possible only through a sketch, I would say, because none of the mediums would come close to explaining a product like this other than illustration. So I'll go through the finished Veena. So all this process, applications, surfacing. So this is what you achieve at the end of all the hard work and the craftsmanship that they put together. And it's not a 1 month's project, but for them it is like been continuing for traditions. I think the fathers, grandfathers, they've been doing this for a long time. So there are many aspects into making of this particular product, and we got an insight, a detailed insight how you finish this product. And we are there not only to observe things, but also to suggest what are the possibilities and how this craft can be preserved for the future to come. So this document talks about how they have diversified that product into small Veenas for gifting purpose. So eventually the market demands have changed, and it helped craftsmen to think in a different line. So they started making small products, and which has been beneficial for them in many ways. So all this documentation that you see is being done right there, in the craft sector. So we had to use A4 papers, shoot it there, and then get it back to Photoshop. Try to clean it up. So there's a lot of uh, editing that went on to actually do this process. These are not studio shot products, but rather done physically on the site. So you have to know how to use your tools in a smart way. And I think most of us are equipped with a good mobile phone and a camera. I think it's very easier for us to do it in these days. And then the compilation of all the products and its variations, it talks about the sizes and the price of the Veenas. And then we acknowledge, the people who actually were working really hard to get this particular product made. So these are like the raw conditions that they actually work in. So the role of our designer, need not be just to develop a product, but also develop a good environment for them to work in. So we had come up with a lot of insights for them to actually consider, which have been put at the end of the document. So I think you can see all these products in different handicraft shops, and particularly Lepakshi. So this particular slide talks about how we can actually develop the design and our suggestions and what our experiences during the whole 2 to 3 weeks of visit with them, talking to craftsmen, and we conclude it, with an insight. And definitely we have a lot of references that we went on about making the document. So we have put out all the things that we referred to at the end of it. So pretty much, yeah, this was the whole journey that we had to undergo. And these are all the craftsmen and the profiles. So this, mind you, this was like 2006, and we look completely different. And yeah, so it was a really enriching journey to actually witness the entire craft. Yeah, so well, I think I mean, I can keep on going. I have so many things to show, but what do we do now? I mean, I think we could conclude it. Probably you can ask me some questions. Maybe we can have an
Hi.
interaction with the students. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We have a lot of questions lined up for you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Before we start with the question answer round, you have thrown light on a lot of aspects, especially talking about the entire design process, starting from conceptual stage till the finalization part. So I have some questions asked. So we'll start with the first one. Shushmita is asking this question. She wants to know about what is the most challenging project you worked on.
The most challenging product. Okay. Well, I think every project has been, that way ever since. But I think the challenge comes in when you have a deadline to a project, right? So there were a lot of projects which had a very close call, like a deadline to, make. Like one of it was, let's say, Colgate, for example, the illustration design. We had very limited time, but we have to make it in a very quick turnaround time so that it gets produced and it goes into markets and it gets printed in millions. So it is a very huge responsibility for us to take up a project like that in a very short time.
Right.
So that was a most complicated and complex things I could have done. But the rest of the projects, more or less, you have the time and opportunity and the space to actually pursue it. Yeah.
Next question. Darshan has asked this. What's your advice for architecture aspirants? Do these kind of works happen in a big group or a team?
So most of the works that I've shown you, except Absolute, have been a teamwork or a collaborative work. So I think that is where the role of architects and architecture has been of a bigger significance in all of my works, because it has given me a platform to understand the wavelength of designers and people who I associate with. Because most of the times I work with architects. So even be it branding, let's say I've designed a lot of logos for architects. So I need to get into their shoes to understand what kind of a vision they have. So it was mostly a collaborative effort, I would say. So being in this field helped me a lot to get insights from that point of view. Yeah, so I think it helped me a lot in terms of understanding the problem. Let's say, just understanding the basic brief itself is a huge task in any of the design projects. So I think architecture really helped me in understanding or analyzing or breaking up, that particular complex problem into something which we can viably do it in a couple of weeks. So I do collaborate with a lot of people, and I do have a lot of interesting conversations about the trends and topics and various aspects of our profession. Yeah. So my advice simply is to be aware of the trends and to be have a conversation, on probably your own designs, your own projects, or get a good constructive feedback from your own peers. So that is something which I've been doing, on a regular basis. I think my work has only been enriched by all those conversations rather than, me hiding all the projects in my closet. So yeah, that way it's better for you to be more open, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And John wants to know, why have you chosen architecture and then design?
Well, I would put it in a different way. I think both of them choose me rather than me choosing them, because honestly I could have taken a completely different path, if I would have not been into architecture. So I think the time and the kind of opportunities I was presented at that moment, I think I just grabbed whatever I got in my hand, not really knowing where I would end up, which is a really risky thing for anyone to do. But I think I've taken that risk, but I ended up being in a good position. It was a very lucky move. But I would say it is important for you to understand your own skills before you venture into anything, and whether your talents or skills align with that particular profession. So if you get some understanding of that, I think for you it will be easier for you to pursue whatever you want to pursue. So for me, architecture, I thought was a platform for me to put my skills, and get a new insight out of it. So probably my drawings and sketches and all these things made me look at things in a different way. So I say observing things has always been my habit more than documenting and sketching. I do observe a lot. So I think these are the qualities of any architect or a designer. I think all these qualities help me to push in this direction. And I've been using all these things to my advantage, on all the projects that I've been doing. So I really did not choose them, but rather they chose me, and I'm happy that I was chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have another question by Padma Shri. How much
Okay.
is it significant to stick to culture while designing something in contemporary?
Well, it is an individual choice, I would say. But when you look at a design standpoint of view, I think it's always good to look at from a universal point of view, like a holistic point of view. Like, who is your audience? Who is the user, and what is the significance of that product in the user's life or in the segment, right?
Mhm.
So I think it is finally up to the designer or the architect to develop something which fits well with the context of the user. So some cases, Indian craft and design is of a high significance. Maybe you are trying to tell a story of that particular craft through a product. So it's more like a messenger. So it is ultimately depends on what kind of product you're dealing, and it's not a hard and fast rule to fix onto one particular craft, or getting an inspiration from one source, but rather it's better to have a all-round understanding of the product that you take. And if it really helps taking the Indian craft into picture, I think it's better that you use the craft.
Yeah. Yeah, one more question by Rahul. He would like to know what kind of print media do you opt for, especially when you have to print things in single color or multicolor. Especially your projects when you've done printing. So he just wants to know
Mm-hmm.
what kind of print media have you used.
So I think print media changes with the material and what you want to achieve with the final result, because I think there are numerous options. There are like millions of options for you to take up. But if let's say I wanted to give it a very rustic feel, so I would rather choose a handmade paper, with a screen print, which is good for single color, right? So in terms of the printing aspects, I think that gives a best output when it comes to a product like a handmade soap. So I would rather choose a textured paper, or a eco packaging paper, which is more sustainable in nature and which is not required for a product to wrap so much. So it all depends on the kind of material you choose. And I think every material has its own limitations in terms of the printing. So you choose the best of that particular material or the context. Yeah. And also, if you're printing in, like, let's say, large numbers, it's better to go with offset. And all these technologies are dependent on the number and the volume of the products and the aesthetic that you want to achieve.
Yeah. We have one more question from Srinivas. He asks, as an architecture degree holder, did you do any
Mhm.
architecture projects till now? Because trying focus here in the presentation, you were totally talking about graphic design and
Well, I
branding.
really did some projects, and I I would say I've failed at some of them, and probably I achieved only to a certain extent of what I could have done. But I dealt with a lot of healthcare projects initially when I started out, because I was working with a healthcare architects company. So I looked into the hospitals, the way, the navigation, the patient beds, and the interiors of the healthcare.
Yeah.
And also I've done a couple of projects on the mobile healthcare system. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, there are aspects of me doing, let's say, a retail business store, which has an aspect of both branding and also the interiors.
Mhm.
So, but I think my emphasis is more about the experience of that rather than making a very functional interior design, I would say. So it was more to tell about a story through that particular space. So just like the exhibition design, what you saw is
Yeah.
like a story that I have chosen to talk, through visual medium, but it is a blend of both architecture and interiors. The graphic design.
Right. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I think the talk pretty much is not really focusing on architecture, but I think the association with that field and the kind of projects I have done through it and the kind of relation I still have, even when I travel, I try to search for a building. I learn a lot about different aspects of design just by looking at a building, let's say. So it is always a point where I reach, ultimately, if I have to do something. So this is a connecting point all through my life. It's been there. So as I said, I'm still trying to reach a point and I'm still wandering between different professions. So maybe tomorrow I would settle doing, an interior project or an architectural project. You never know.
Which is why the design nomad, maybe your title itself.
Exactly. So I'm still in a flux, in a vacuum. I would say I've not reached, the stage where I will be called by some tag, but I'm happy to be in this space at this point of time.
Nice. One more question from Amita. She says, any wrong decision or design in your career so far?
Yeah.
Because I
There are
think
pretty
you
much.
have to make mistakes to grow, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how the client received it or how the client did not receive it well after all the efforts. And there are some projects where there was a miscommunication, where I could not understand the brief, and few projects which had a timeline or a deadline which I could not meet. So I would say rather it is more to do with the environment and the people you're working with. But in terms of the design aspect, I don't think I've reached a block where I cannot think anymore, or maybe I did not actually do a better job to that particular project. So yeah, most of the times I reach dead ends and I kind of take a break and I try to shift my focus onto something else and get back to that project rather than keeping on hitting that. So I think that process helped me achieve a particular output to any project. But I think it depends only on the people or the context you're working with, the success or the failures.
Right. So yeah, that's about it. We can, I think we can, there's one more. Yeah, from our principal, sir, S. Kumar, sir, he says it's a very nice initiative, amazing and inspiring work by you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, I think we all look up to him. In our college days, I think we have the best mentors and professors. I think they've all guided us to be whatever we're doing right now. Yeah, I think that lift is required, and I really got all the support from them at the right times. Yeah.
Yeah, so
We have some
thank you
more.
so much to, yeah, there's one more. Yeah, it's just appreciation. Thank you, sir, for a wonderful webinar. It shows your hard work and importance of culture as well. This is by Arshia. That's the name.
Thanks, Harsha.
Yeah.
So as I said, like I still carry something. Like to end it. I still carry a small book, sort of a thing. It's almost like my conceptual book. So I keep writing, scribbling, and things like that. So this has been my companion forever, right from my childhood, I would say. So the book, pen, and pencil, I think these are the tools that I rely on most of the times. Even if the whole world collapses, I think I have my tools, pretty much
Good.
in
Yes.
place, so that I can still continue doing whatever I'm doing. So I mean, my only advice to the young students and aspirants of design or architecture is to um, pursue your skills, know your strengths, and try to refine them, and probably use it for a project or for a cause. So I think practice is also something which is required for any particular skill to be reached to a certain stage. So I think practice has been the major motivation for me. I keep practicing sketches. I mean, even in the pandemic times, I think I've done a lot of artwork which I did not imagine that I would be doing, but yeah, eventually you end up doing it. So my Instagram account has all those updates. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, thank you so much. We are really happy to have you on board and start off this entire series of Architecture Plus, in collaboration with Insight SPA JNFU. You being the first speaker, definitely quite motivating, and I hope we have some good set of speakers coming along the way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for more talks.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. You've been very patient and kind. I'm not sure if I've been too lengthy, in the whole session, but yeah, there are some technical things in
Yeah, that's
between.
okay. I think
Yeah,
that's quite common nowadays. So yeah,
yeah,
thank you so much for your time and your efforts, sir. And we would also like to thank all the participants who've been listening very keenly. And we also want to tell you about this Instagram page and Facebook page that we have. Please follow us on Instagram and as well as on Facebook for further more updates. And we are also in plans to conduct webinars on a weekly basis. So depending on the convenience of the speaker, we would like to have the webinar the screening of the webinar either on Friday or on a Saturday. So technically a weekend for listening to us. Thank you so much.